The morning mist hung low over the sleepy village of Willow Brook, curling around the thatched roofs and winding through the cobblestone streets like a lazy cat searching for a warm spot to nap. Beyond the village, where the tidy cottages gave way to wild grasses and towering oaks, the ancient forest stood sentinel, its dark depths whispering secrets only the brave or foolish dared to discover. On this particular morning, as the first golden rays of sunlight danced across the dewdrops, a small figure slipped unseen through the village gate. Oliver Puddlefoot, of 8 years old, with a mop of chestnut hair that defied all attempts at taming and a pair of curious brown eyes that missed nothing, carried a slightly squashed jam sandwich wrapped in a handkerchief and an irrepressible sense of adventure. Oliver James Puddlefoot. His mother's voice had scolded just that morning. "You stay out of those woods, you hear me? They're full of dangerous creatures with teeth like kitchen knives and claws like butcher's hooks." But Oliver, who had long ago learned that rules were more like suggestions when adventure called, merely nodded solemnly before tucking an extra sandwich into his pocket, just in case. The forest welcomed him with a chorus of bird song and the earthy scent of damp leaves. Oliver hummed to himself as he walked, his bare feet making soft impressions in the mossy path. He was imagining himself as a great explorer discovering unknown lands when a sound unlike any other froze him mid-step. Crack. Not the friendly crackle of twigs underfoot, but the deep, resonant snap of something much larger. The birds fell silent, even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Oliver turned slowly, his heart suddenly pounding like a rabbit's foot. There, not 10 paces away, stood the largest creature he'd ever seen, a towering black bear with fur like midnight and eyes that gleamed with ancient wisdom. Its massive head tilted as it regarded the small boy, nostrils flaring as it caught the scent of strawberries and wheat. For a moment that stretched like taffy, neither moved. Then Oliver, whose curiosity had always outweighed his common sense, did something extraordinary. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the slightly squashed sandwich. "Hello," he said, his voice surprisingly steady. "Are you hungry? You look like you could eat a whole picnic." "And possibly the basket, too." The bear blinked. Oliver held his breath. Then, with movements surprisingly delicate for such a massive creature, the bear ambled forward and gently took the offering from Oliver's outstretched hand. One bite, and the sandwich was gone. The bear made a sound deep in its chest that Oliver felt rather than heard, a contented rumble like distant thunder. "I'm Oliver," the boy said, because his mother had taught him manners even if she hadn't mentioned what to say when meeting bears. "Do you have a name?" The bear regarded him for a long moment, then sneezed violently, sending a spray of sandwich crumbs into the air. "Mr. Bumble Snout it is," Oliver declared, grinning as he wiped jam from his cheek. Thus began the most remarkable friendship Willowbrook would ever know. Each morning, Oliver would slip away to the forest's edge where Mr. Bumble Snout waited with the patience of mountains. They developed rituals as comfortable as old slippers, tea parties with acorn cups. Mr. Bumble Snout always ate the saucers, games of hide and seek. The bear's idea of hiding was to cover his eyes with his massive paws, and long afternoons spent napping in sun-dappled clearings, Oliver curled against the bear's warm flank like a cub. The village, of course, noticed Oliver's frequent disappearances. "That boy's got his head in the clouds," grumbled the blacksmith, hammer ringing against hot steel. "Always wandering off with his pockets full of food," tutted the baker's wife, flour dusting her apron. Only old Mrs. Maplewood, who had lived through more winters than anyone could count, watched Oliver with knowing eyes. "Some friendships," she would murmur to herself, "transcend what ordinary folk can understand." The truth might have remained Oliver's secret forever if not for the autumn fair. That year, the traveling circus brought more than just acrobats and fire-eaters. They brought hunters, hard-eyed men who spoke of trophies and rewards. Oliver, sent to fetch sugar plums from the market, froze when he overheard their conversation. "Double quotes. Black bear in these woods," one man was saying, running a calloused finger along the edge of his knife. Biggest I've ever seen, worth a fortune, that pelt would be. Oliver's blood turned to ice. Without a word, he dropped his coins on the counter and ran faster than he'd ever run before, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. The forest, usually so welcoming, seemed to sense his panic. Branches snagged at his clothes like grasping fingers as he crashed through the undergrowth, calling Mr. Bumblesnout's name with increasing desperation. He found the bear by their favorite stream, lazily batting at fish in the shallows. At Oliver's frantic shouts, the bear's head snapped up, nostrils flaring as he caught the boy's fear scent. "They're coming for you," Oliver gasped, tears streaking his dirty cheeks. "Bad men with guns and knives. You have to run, you have to." A twig snapped in the distance, then another. The hunters were closer than Oliver had realized. Mr. Bumblesnout moved with surprising speed for such a massive creature. One moment he was by the stream, the next he had Oliver tucked safely behind him as the first hunter emerged from the trees. The man's triumphant grin vanished when he saw the bear, not fleeing, but standing his ground with Oliver at his back. The other hunters froze as Mr. Bumblesnout rose to his full height, his roar shaking leaves from the trees. What happened next became legend in Willowbrook. Some say the bear charged, others swear he simply stared the hunters down with those ancient, knowing eyes. Whatever the truth, the men fled, dropping weapons and pride in their terror when Oliver finally led Mr. Bumblesnout back to the village that evening. The entire population turned out to see the boy and his bear walking side by side. The mayor fainted clean away. The butcher locked himself in his shop, and Oliver's mother. She took one look at her son's determined face and the massive creature at his side, sighed deeply, and said, "Well, I suppose we'll need to make more sandwiches." As the years passed, Oliver grew taller and Mr. Bumblesnout grew grayer around the muzzle, but their friendship never wavered. On cold winter nights, the bear would curl around the Puddlefoot cottage like a living blanket. Come spring, he'd help Oliver collect the sweetest berries from the highest bushes. And every morning at precisely 8 o'clock, rain or shine, Mr. Bumblesnout could be found waiting patiently by the garden gate, just in case Oliver had an extra sandwich to share.